Well, you getting ready for the warm weather coming up? It gets pretty hot out here. So.
Yeah, well, we get used to it though. The heat's not that bad because it gets hot, but it's not really humid like most places are. So that's what I really like about Arizona. The weather is nice.
Point number 1. There are other kinds of earth-based materials used for construction. These are compressed earth blocks, adobe bricks, and rammed earth structures.
And so, one of our viewers, he sent a note back to us one time, a comment that says, "You guys ought to do a thing about compressed earth blocks." Have you ever heard about that term before this guy wrote that note?
I heard much about it. I've heard of adobe because when you grow up here, they talk about that a lot with the Native Americans. I've heard of adobe, but I never really heard of compressed earth block, or there's another one called rammed earth.
Rammed earth. So you got rammed earth blocks, compressed earth blocks, you got reinforced compressed earth blocks, and then you have adobe bricks or adobe blocks.
Well, I should say the rammed earth are not blocks. They're usually in forms like you have to use like a couple pieces of wood or whatever to make it as a form. They're more like monolithic structures, so it's like just one big like wall,
Oh, so it's almost like pouring concrete.
Yeah, it's almost like pouring concrete.
Point number 2. There are many advantages for using compressed earth blocks.
What do you think some of the advantages are for compressed earth blocks as far as building materials go?
So they have a lot of advantages with them. I think they're good as far as water vapor transfer goes, or letting the house breathe. They're good as far as like being insect proofed. So like they
no termites.
No termites you have to worry about that, or with fire. They don't have like a fire hazard.
No fire? Yeah, that's a really good point. No, they don't burn. Now cinder blocks don't burn either, but they're better insulators than cinder block are.
And they're also good too because you're using renewable natural resource. You're not using wood from other places. You're not using cement as much.
Right.
So if you're looking at climate change, you're looking at as far as like the amount of energy it takes to make those materials. With a rammed earth or compressed earth block, you don't have as much overhead as far as the amount of energy it takes to make it. And the good thing about it too is you use materials that are you can use the earth that's pretty close by.
Yeah, it's
you don't
right
have
there.
to transport it a long ways.
Saves that's a good point about the transportation energy that you would consume transporting all this stuff around when you can maybe make it from local materials.
Point number 3. Cement plants are a major source of GHGs in the world.
In a typical cement plant, though, how bad is a cement plant for? I'm not saying bad for the environment,
you get like a double whammy from it because when you heat up the cement, carbon dioxide comes off from it because it's got carbonates in it, and then the amount of energy that you use for it. So you're using a lot of fossil fuels.
So there's a lot of energy costs in making cement. I understand that you were telling me that cement factories are one of the biggest contributors of greenhouse gases in the industry of construction, I guess, or building materials.
Yeah, between that and steel, I think they're around 10% or more.
Wow.
Point number 4. How much does it cost to use compressed earth blocks for house construction? Are they cheaper than regular construction materials?
So, one of our viewers, he says that he actually works in construction and making walls and homes with compressed earth blocks. So, which is kind of neat that we're doing that a lot out here. So how much do you think it costs? I mean, I had a hard time finding out how much it really costs per block because it's hard to tell because they kind of do it where they make a whole bunch for that one job. Like if you're going to build a wall, then they'll bring their machine out. They'll make all these bricks and they'll stack them up. Where they're at. You might have to bring in some dirt too, but it's not from very far away. But so it's hard to tell exactly what it costs. But from what I could tell, maybe you can confirm what your research is that it does cost a little more per brick or per block or comparative to other building materials. So it's considered like a premium cost of building. Now, if you have somebody else do it and bring them in and make them and bring them in.
Point number 5. Even though compressed earth blocks may be more expensive, the energy saved by using them more than makes up for the construction costs.
But over time, they say the energy you would save on your home makes up for it. Because like you said, they can last for hundreds of years if you have these these blocks. And so you can
Yeah,
have
the
a
regular
home
home
that
only lasts for like
Yeah.
less than 100, and these last for several hundred years. Yeah, that's true.
But over time, I mean, I'm probably sure that over the lifespan of your home, you'll save so much money and energy that you will make up the cost for it, 4 or 5 times over.
Point number 6. The soil composition for compressed earth blocks and rammed earth consists of sand and clay with some concrete mixed in.
And you have to test your soil, though, a little bit to see what the percentage is between clay and sand.
Yeah, what are the percentages you think to make up the compressed earth
Well,
block?
I've seen a lot of different ones, and you probably have some numbers, too. What I saw was 40% clay and 60% sand.
I heard it was like 60% clay, 30% sand, and then you have to use a little bit of concrete in there too.
Point number 7. 2 physical characteristics to consider with compressed earth blocks are compression strength and tensile strength, with compression strength being much better than other materials.
I did hear a couple of disadvantages only. So there's something called compression strength and tensile strength in blocks. And compression strength is how much, weight a block can hold, before it breaks down, kind of a thing. And tensile strength is how much flexing and how much give it has.
Mm-hmm.
So the blocks, compressed earth blocks, have some awesome compression strength. The cheapest ones that they make are like 12,000 psi. 1,200 psi, typically up to 2,000 psi. Some are more than 3,000. Some of these bricks are more than 3,000 psi they can take for compression strength, which is really impressive. Whereas an adobe brick, even one it made is only about 250 to 300 psi. I'm sure mine are probably less than that that I made, but
I heard the rammed earth actually are very good if you put a little bit of concrete in them, because there's 2 different kinds of rammed earth. There's unstabilized, which doesn't have any concrete in it, and there's stabilized. The difference between those 2 is 10 times higher for the stabilized rammed earth.
Wow.
And I've actually heard they're higher than the regular compressed earth blocks as well.
Point number 8. Since the compressed earth blocks and rammed earth structures require cement most of the time, we will still be dependent on it, but hopefully not for everything that's construction related. So
there is a use for cement. I mean, this would save us from making a whole lot of cement, but using less cement I think would be better for the environment. But it's kind of like natural gas or something. We still kind of need it. Even though we want to reduce all these things, we need a little bit of it because it's effective in certain cases, like we talked about before. There's a place for concrete too. But we just maybe using 100% concrete. I think we can try to avoid that if we use these methods.
Point number 9. Tensile strength is lower for compressed earth blocks compared to other materials, so it shouldn't be used in some circumstances.
But tensile strength for these blocks is not so great. All right, and it's obvious because they're not going to take vibrations or bending or twisting or motions so much. So. But if you got a wall somewhere, it's in a perfectly stable environment, great idea. Okay, maybe putting a wall next to a major railway or highway or something like that, where there's trucks and constant vibrations in the ground. Maybe that's not so great. Okay, or you don't want to use them for bridge pylons or something like that either, because it needs to take the little bit of twisting and bending. Or tall buildings. You see those tall buildings, it's got great compression strength, but it's not going to have a little bit of sway as the buildings move, that from the wind and stuff.
Point number 10. Reinforced compressed earth blocks are needed in situations where there is a lot of rains or flooding.
The only other thing I heard too is that if you don't use reinforced compressed earth blocks or CEBs, then if you get a lot of rain or water, like a flood or something like that could erode it quite quickly.
Point number 11. Since the compressed earth blocks are breathable, they don't require intense HVAC systems to heat or cool the house.
Well, you know what else I think I heard is good about these compressed earth blocks too, is that they're water permeable and they're breathable. So that's better for your air conditioning system, because you don't have to take out as much water vapor, or you don't have to put in as much. Because the comfortable range is between 40 and 70%. So I think these compressed earth blocks and rammed earth allow you to have the humidity levels at the appropriate levels without having to use like a artificial
Humidifier.
yeah,
or something like
humidifier.
Point number 12. To summarize, there are a lot of advantages for using compressed earth blocks for constructing houses.
So yeah, we talk about a lot of advantages to that, certainly for the environment, for the carbon footprint, for the energy consumption over time. They save a lot of money on your power bills, and so you save energy, but also save greenhouse gas emissions too, because you're not worried about the so much heating and cooling your home as much. It costs a lot less. Well, we're grateful for our viewer bringing this subject up.
Yeah.
Because and if you have any more subjects you want us to talk about, then bring them up, because I think there's a few more that people have talked about too that we're going to try to hit one at a time.
Nice.
Well, so until next time, we'll see you then.